Welcome to the Rational Optimist podcast. Another week, another big breakthrough in supersonic flight.
Boom. Literally boom.
No boom. No. Literally no boom.
No boom. No boom. Okay. So look, 2 weeks ago we talked about a supersonic startup out of Denver, Boom Supersonic, achieved a milestone, first supersonic flight, civilian supersonic flight over America in over 20 years, right? And was the first time a privately developed jet had ever broken the sound barrier. Huge news, talked about on this podcast a few weeks ago. The interesting new details that came out since then, and Boom talked about it. That supersonic flight, it was possible without an audible supersonic boom, right? Basically, they figured out by, flying at sufficiently high altitude at appropriate speed, it creates these perfect conditions. That means the supersonic boom, which is really the big issue, the reason why supersonic flight is banned in America, basically doesn't create a sonic boom that can be heard on the ground. So huge deal. And hopefully this is going to pave the way for making America supersonic again.
So the founder, Blake Scholl, says they can fly at Mach 1.3, which is 30% faster than the speed of sound, over land with this new technology. And it's a huge development because, like you said, the reason it was banned in the first place is because sonic booms over land were disruptive. Exactly how disruptive is... They may have exaggerated a little bit, but the technology that actually allows them to do this, in the simplest terms, if you fly high enough under the right weather conditions, the boom takes a U-turn. The sonic boom that it does create, it goes down, but it takes a U-turn before it hits the ground. And so if you fly high enough under the right conditions, nobody on the ground hears a boom. Problem solved.
Or so we think. So listen. The official reason why supersonic flight is banned, we wrote about this for the Rational Optimist diary, was basically they did tests over in Oklahoma 50, 60 years ago, and whatever it was, 1,000 residents, and they were subject to multiple supersonic booms a day for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and some ungodly small portion of them complained, and that's the reason why it's banned. Now here's the interesting thing. The actual rule, when you dig into it, the actual regulation is not that supersonic flight with a supersonic boom, it's banned. It's that if you go faster than the speed of sound, that's illegal. So even though Boom has invented, this clever way to get around that, still need to get the rule of flying faster than the speed of sound thrown out.
Yeah, it's worth repeating that it's not that noisy flights are banned, right? It's that flights that go too fast are banned. That's a problem that needs to be solved. They Boom got special authorization to do these tests, but they couldn't actually run a business and fly passenger flights, as is their goal at supersonic speeds, until this law is changed.
So I met Matt Ridley for breakfast last Wednesday, and I said to him, expecting them to surprise him with a fact. I said, you know why supersonic flights were banned in America? It's about the whole Oklahoma thing. He goes, no, they just hated the Brits. And it was kind of like, there's a certain truth of that, which is basically UK and France teamed up. We developed Concorde. America and Boeing couldn't get its act together. So it was just like, you know what? Let's just ban the whole thing. Now that's no longer. So I think this is definitely working in supersonic's favor. The other thing working in supersonic's favor here is President Trump last week with a model airplane of Boom's supersonic jet, which was sent to him obviously by Boom. So I think what I'm hearing is things are in the works. Going to make America supersonic again. I'm rationally optimistic about this one.
Me too. We'll just spend 30 seconds on the technology. So Concorde was the previous supersonic plane that was banned. That theoretically could have flown high enough to produce the same effect of not having a supersonic boom on the ground, but they didn't have engines that were efficient enough. And the other interesting thing is that Boom's, what's the plane called? Is it called Overture?
Yeah, Overture. Yeah, it was like the test plane.
One of their little secret sauces like that allows them to do this is that they've got a really advanced autopilot, which is essentially an algorithm that takes the atmospheric conditions and the weather, and it lets them know how fast the plane can go, and it automatically adjusts the speed of the plane to make sure the sonic boom doesn't reach the ground. The computing power to do that was not available in Concorde's day, and now it is. You could say that about a whole host of breakthroughs. That basically summarizes the last 20 years. We didn't have the computing power to do a thing. Now we have the computing power to do that thing. Let's go do the thing.
100%. And I mean, that's what's different about now on Concorde. You have better engines, you have all the computing power to do this stuff. So that's what people kind of hear Supersonic, and it's like, yeah, but how is it going to be different than Concorde? Well, very different. And I think this is only the beginning, because Blake Shaw, again, CEO of Boom, said something very interesting, which was this team is the only team in the world alive that's built a supersonic jet. And still they're kind of cobbling together parts and technology from years ago. But you would imagine now that Boom's done it, it's like a bat signal out to other startups, like, oh, we can do this too. And my hope is that in 5 years we have multiple. You know, technology is weird because it's kind of like one company makes the breakthrough, then it's a proliferation, and then it kind of consolidates, right? So I would imagine 5 years from now, there's going to be multiple supersonic startups, and there's going to be a bubble, and then there's going to be like one or two winners. The new Boeing and Airbus will be born in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Pioneers get the arrows in the back, right? There's a lot of risk, a lot of financial risk, a lot of career risk doing something like this, but I'm glad Blake did it.
Dan, there's a new AI in town. Elon Musk's XAI comes out with its new model, Grok 3, for the first time in more than a year. There's one model, this XAI model, that's number one across all the categories on the AI leaderboards. Have you tried it? What do you think?
I have not tried it. You only let me know this morning it was available for free. But I need to try it. So this beats, did you say this beats all the other models on all relevant benchmarks?
Number one. So LM Arena is like a crowdsourced leaderboard. So forget all those official metrics. They're all generally BS. LM Arena, you go on and it basically gives you a blind test. So you ask two models questions, but you don't know what models you're asking. And, you know, through thousands and thousands of iterations, it basically grades the model. Number one across all metrics, not just overall, every single metric: creative writing, coding, math, all that stuff.
Did you try it?
I tried it this morning and I actually compared it. I was writing a new Rational Optimist diary and I compared it to what I was able to do with Claude and Google Studio. 15 minutes of playing around with it, it seems right up there. I mean, I'll have to test it out more, but there's a new sheriff in town.
There's no knowledge cutoff, which is a big deal. It knows,
Yeah.
It's updated every day, as far as I understand. So you can ask it a question about something that happened yesterday, which is a big difference from Claude. And I'm not sure what ChatGPT's knowledge cutoff is.
ChatGPT, I think, is pretty much up to date now. I'm not sure if it's daily, but it's like weekly, or it knows, you know, what happened last week or whatever. But
what do you know about the data center that powers this thing? Because I was reading about that this morning.
So this is a big deal because this is so what has happened, why AI has gotten so good over the past couple of years, is that you've just thrown more chips at the problem and then more infrastructure around it. So this Grok 3 model was trained on the world's largest cluster of NVIDIA GPUs, 100,000 cutting edge NVIDIA GPUs, all linked together in an enormous data center in Memphis. So huge deal. And it should be a lot better. I'm actually expecting it to, if it doesn't blow away the other models, there's something wrong.
Yeah, they added another 100,000 GPUs to it. So it's a 200,000 cluster now of NVIDIA GPUs. It's called Colossus. How quickly XAI got this thing up and running is really amazing. They got it up and running in 7 months by finding an abandoned factory outside of Memphis. And it needed a lot of power. So they brought in natural gas powered generators, made their own electricity, and they deal with the power fluctuations and how much power the GPUs use by using Tesla megapacks, which are basically gigantic batteries. So that all argues to me that Elon Musk and his family of companies is the most likely to win in the short to medium term AI, because he can call on Tesla for the batteries, and he's got his finger in so many pies.
And I think he's just an inspiration to the people who I think he basically brings everyone that's with him on a mission. So I was watching that video where they talked through the technical difficulties of getting this, and each one of those technical difficulties is like crazy. It's like if IBM or Microsoft came up against it, people work from 9 to 5 and they clock off. These guys were talking about it being 4:20 a.m. in the morning, and they needed to get something done by 5 a.m. And that's just an incredible pace of innovation. Which again, I mean, they went to Jensen and said, "Hey, how long does this usually take?" Jensen Huang, NVIDIA CEO. How long is this going to take? What we're planning? He says 4 years, and they did it in 122 days, start to finish.
Yeah, 7 months.
Crazy, crazy, right? And I think just for investors, this is extremely important because talked about DeepSeek a ton on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and the whole thing was, oh hey, here's a Chinese model that's as good as the state of the art US models now. We said at the time we were kind of looking for this new Grok 3 model because it was, trained on all these chips. This should be a significant leap forward. And if that happens, the AI boom is like, there's no question it's going to continue. Early signs look like it's pretty good. I expect it to continue getting even better with, tweaks here and there. But yeah, it's exciting times.
Personally, I need to start contextualizing this AI news better because every week, without fail, for the last 4 weeks, we've gotten huge AI news. First, it was the Project Stargate, where we're going to invest $500 billion into AI infrastructure. And you feel like you got to drop everything and learn everything there is to know about that. And then next week, it was DeepSeek. I feel like you got to drop everything and learn everything there is to know about DeepSeek. DeepSeek was 2 weeks ago, and everybody's forgot about it already. Now Grok 3 is the next big thing. So we just have to realize this kind of stuff is going to keep happening. It's only the beginning. There's no moat. These companies are going to keep leapfrogging each other, and there's always going to be something exciting to learn about in this new world of accelerating AI.
Yeah, and then the exciting thing is that you take this AI and then you apply it to other products. So the reason why Tesla self-driving has got so good, or Waymo self-driving has got so good lately, is because basically they're putting AI in the robots. And there's just tons of example of this. For example, I came across a new robotic vacuum startup called Matic. Had never heard of it. And kind of the Roombas, which were the previous state of the art, they kind of worked, but they kind of didn't. Now this thing seems legit, and it's AI powered. So you're just going to see these things embedded in all products in the real world, which is the exciting part, I think.
Can it go up the stairs?
Not this version, but I bet you soon it will be able to.
Okay.
That's a big. But we need the humanoid robots. We need the Rosies for that.
Yeah. Call me when it can go up the stairs. I'll be their first customer.
This is it, because you think about it. Say you only have to hoover the stairs, right? You vacuum the stairs. You still need to buy a vacuum then.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yeah. You want to talk about nuclear a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, along with Supersonic, there's obviously been a ton happening in nuclear. How long have we been following nuclear? 8 years, 10 years?
Yeah. And for the first, if it's been 10, for the first 9 of that, we were the only ones following it. Now everyone's joined in. It's great.
And nothing happening, right? I mean, the biggest story was, oh, we're actually not going to close down as many nuclear power plants as you think. That's why you should invest in nuclear startups and uranium stocks and all those type of things, right? Whereas now, more stuff has happened in the past 6 months, than has happened in the past 10 years combined. So look, people, they know the big nuclear power plants on the edge of cities. Really, the future is these small modular reactors that can, are safe enough and small enough to fit on the back of a truck. So one big thing that happened in the past few months, Bill Gates' nuclear startup TerraPower turned a Wyoming coal plant into America's first advanced nuclear facility. Huge news. It still has to get the permitting to build the actual small modular reactor, but the importance is the breaking ground on the facility, right? It's like baby steps for now.
I don't think there's an industry where the public perception and the reality are so far apart as nuclear, because nuclear is extremely clean, doesn't produce any carbon, extremely safe, and people just have the opposite picture. They think it's dangerous. They see the smokestacks, which is just water vapor. We need a mass education campaign here.
We need it. No, we don't need a mass education campaign. We need a mass propaganda campaign. I'll tell you why. So, such a good point. This is why facts do not matter when it comes to convincing people. Stories and narratives do, right? Nuclear is the perfect example of that. The facts have always been on our side. We've always known it's clean and safe. Yet, those horrible images of Chernobyl or other disasters kind of stuck in people's memory when, you could explain to people, oh, hey, actually, these power sources are more more dangerous, less clean, all these things, and people didn't really matter. So I don't know. Me and you need to figure out a way to go out and spread the pro nuclear propaganda, and that's how we went.
All right, pro
I
nuclear
think
story.
I think these small modular reactors are the solution. I remember some guy got on stage a while ago, and he ate some like radioactive waste or something like that. But I'm not going to do that. But maybe getting a nuclear reactor small enough that you can put in your car or hold in the palm of your hand or something like that is the solution.
There was a YouTube video of the founder of Allo. His name's escaping me, but we met him in Austin.
Yep.
He, it was either him or one of his employees. They pulled a fuel rod out of a nuclear reactor while it was running, and it didn't hurt them at all.
Yeah, that was down at the University of Texas, I believe. They've had that reactor running for decades, and that was actually a great example, right? It's like, oh my god, nuclear rods! Like, everyone knows what happened in Chernobyl, and they went in and just pulled it out. One of the things that, again, a little bit in the fact world, not so much in the story world, but there was a great paper recently by the National Bureau of Economic Research, legit organization, and the title of the paper was "Chernobyl Killed 4 Million People." And depending on who you ask, the radioactive waste released from Chernobyl and the people that died around the plant, somewhere between 4,000 and 60,000 people died as a direct result, depending on who you ask. But this paper went back and looked at, oh, hey, the whole world turned away from nuclear power after Chernobyl. Because of that, we went to dirtier, more dangerous sources of energy, coal, oil, even gas, which is much cleaner, but still worse than nuclear. They estimated the pollution and the CO2 released as a result of that killed around 4 million people. So really, the reframe here is the nuclear power plant that's not built is the real killer.
Yeah, we need a story for that. I find that wildly convincing. That's all I need to hear. But most people, the numbers don't do it, like you said.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we need to do a documentary inside a nuclear facility or something like that. It's I don't know. We need to do something or swim in the water where they have the control rods. Maybe we go for a swim in the water and nothing happens to us or something. I don't know. Skin in the game.
Yeah. All right. Tell us about this conference you've been at for the last 2 days. We talked a little bit privately about it, but I want to hear more.
Great conference in London, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. Terrible name, great conference. So was able to meet Matt Ridley there, Chris Wright, the Energy Secretary, Peter Thiel was speaking, Bjorn Lomborg, Michael Schellenberger, folks from UATX, our friends, Whole Foods founder, former Australian Prime Ministers, Marion Tupy, Jordan Peterson, Barry Weiss, Neil Ferguson, tons more people. The big takeaway, and then we can get into it, is that the Overton window on what you're allowed to say and the ideas that you're allowed to talk to have completely shifted in the past 4 or 5 years around why Western culture is good, the problems with immigration, free speech, safety, things like that. So that was the big takeaway I took from it. And this was not a small conference. It was 4,500 people in London. And if this conference had been held 4 or 5 years ago, I think there would have been riots outside from, anti-free speech demonstrators or whatever. Can get into specifics, but that's the big picture.
So I understand it's about the vibe shift this year. What is the purpose of the conference? What was it about last year, for example, before the vibe shift happened?
It was kind of about the same thing, kind of like reigniting Western civilization and all the values. But this, I guess the point of it is really to bring together all these thinkers in different ways and figure out what we're going to do to think about how to step up and defend our values and defend, call it the US Constitution, even though this is a very European conference, our Bill of Rights, one thing that I would say is that it was great from a intellectual perspective. But one thing that I talked to people at the conference is that we had these ideas about how to run a society. We thought about the ideas. We've tried other ideas. Turns out our ideas were right about innovation and entrepreneurship and Western culture being great, all those type of things. And now it's time for doing. Now it's time for action. Now it's time for actually the innovators to go in and build stuff that increases productivity and prosperity for all. So that's what I came away from the conference thinking. Great that we're thinking about all this stuff. You need the intellectual, foundations, but what matters here is the people building the future. And that's what, at the Rational Optimist Society, we want to help support those innovators and tell their stories.
How do we get them to rename this the Rational Optimist Conference?
I'm working on it. They should have invited me to the post conference debrief, because I have very, very strong views about what was good at the conference and what was bad and what a conference should be. I have this thing that when I go to a conference, the absolute worst thing you can do, the thing you must not do, is sit and listen to all the talks. What's really valuable is all these people have come from all around the world to be there, and you need to network with them one-on-one. And that's basically what I did. I went to some of the talks. The talks are great, but you know what? You can watch them on YouTube after. You can't network with those people and get to know them after. Some incredible people there. I mean, the speakers that I mentioned were only part of it. The attendee list was almost even better. I met folks from Palantir and people, focused on reindustrializing America and all those type of things. It was great.
Pretty funny that it was held in Europe, huh? Of all places.
Yeah, and it was held in a area of London it's like being 30 to 45 minutes outside London in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And listen, it was a stadium level event. It was awesome to see all those people turn out. But yeah, it would have been nicer to be in the center of London or something like that. One thing that I came away from the conference, we often talk about technology is wonderful and innovation is wonderful. Of course, there is a dark side of technology. You could say, sometimes, unbridled use of smartphones and things aren't good for kids. There was almost, from some people, an anti-AI bent. And I think it's important not to fall into that trap, not to become a Luddite. And then again, just with nuclear, point out that, actually AI is saving lives. It's not going to kill anyone. And technology generally creates more jobs. So that's one thing I would say we all have to stand up and be careful of.
Is it because it could be used for authoritarian purposes?
That, and also just grappling with the fact that, if you had asked us a few years ago what makes humans, you would have said, the ability to speak and use language and all those things. And then Jordan Peterson gave the example of, well, I fed every single book I've ever written into this AI and asked it to write about my next book, and it did that. And like, what does that mean to create a digital twin of yourself and all those type of things? And I would say new technology always seems scary, right? And you can point at the jobs it's going to displace and all those things, but we've been deploying game-changing technologies for centuries, and everyone that wants a job has a job today, and life has never been better. So I think it's important. I was actually talking to Lewis Anslow from Pessimist Archive about this, just keeping the whole progress movement on track and not becoming anti-technology, which it's very easy to do.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I've yet to read anything written by AI that was even remotely fun or like insightful to read. You can get facts, you can get a little bit of help with your writing, but I think the human touch, the human creativity, the human uniqueness is, I don't know if AI is ever going to be able to replicate that in writing.
Listen, I mean, the thing is that I think it's a case of most human wins. You have to be more human. You have to be uniquely you in this new era where, you can just doing generic things and summarizing everything is just click your fingers and AI does it for you. So I think that's where you have to go. You have to be more human. And obviously we want to guide people through that. And we're thinking through it ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one, just back to the nuclear stuff, the subtitle of the conference, which actually they maybe should have made the title was a better story. And one of the things that many speakers pointed out was Facts don't matter. It's the importance of stories and narrative that changes people's mind. And I think it was Neil Ferguson that basically said, you need to create a better story than the Hollywood left because they're winning right now. And it was just so true. So I think that's our job, and that's really what changes people's minds and inspires kids. And yeah,
That's one of our medium term goals with the Rational Optimist Society, is to create stories, maybe animations, but stuff geared at kids, so we can teach them these ideas early. Nobody learns the history of technology and the history of how the West rose over the last 250 years due to industrialization. It's pretty important to me. It's one of the most important things I would think I would teach kids if I was in charge of the schools, but it's not there at all. So we're looking at ways to create material like that for kids.
welcome your new principal, Dan Steinhardt, huh? I mean, look, it's so true, because you get them at that age and the future becomes a lot easier versus right now. Record number of 12th graders say it's hard to have hope for the world. Why is that? Because they're just being told every day, oh, America is bad and climate change is ruining the world and all that stuff. So if you can create great stories that are understandable by kids and entertaining, that's really the key.
Yeah, not only is it correct, it's better, much better for the kids. Would you rather have your kid grow up thinking the world is doomed and there's not much they can do, or that the world could be great if they make it great?
Right. You need to give them agency. That's the number one thing, that, hey, you can actually go and build things and do amazing things. Like, I mean, Blake Shaw, CEO of Boom Supersonic, the guy was designing internet coupons a couple of years ago, right? Palmer Luckey, the CEO of Anduril, he started out designing VR headsets. So I think they're two great examples of, you have an idea. And this is what I've learned from working with, Americans. Your lot in life is not set. With enough talent and luck, you can just go and do something. And that's incredibly freeing. It's scary in one way if you're not ambitious, but it's freeing as well, just to know you can go and build things.
Got a dose of optimism for us today?
I have a dose of realism. Okay, so Boston comes out the other day. City of Boston. It's going to take 20 years to build a single train station. West Station. It's going to open in 2045 between Framingham and Worcester line at the former Beacon Park Yard. Going to cost 100 million, which actually doesn't seem that much. It's probably going to be 100 billion by the time they're done. But guys, what are we doing here? 2025, they're saying it's going to take 20 years to build a train. Yet in 1930, the Empire State Building was built in 400 days. We need to get back to building stuff fast, right? I'll give you some other good examples. Disneyland brought to life in 366 days. The construction of the world's largest office building, the Pentagon, 491 days. So talking about subways and trains here, New York built its first 28 stations of the New York subway in 4.5 years, under 5. 28 stations, under 5 years. Of course, we know the problem here is regulations and government red tape, permitting, land purchase, all these type of things. If we remove that, I'm hopeful Doge can do a lot of it with NEPA and stuff. If we can do that, we can get back to building stuff fast. We can make America great again, and we can stop being, as Noah Smith calls it, the build nothing country.
That's such a great example. China's moving fast. We can too.
China's moving fast. And a lot of other countries are as well. One more thing. Dubai built the Palm Island, the giant, huge island that houses, I don't know how many hotels and restaurants and buildings. They built that for the same amount of money that New York spent renovating 6 miles of subway track.
You could build an entire city in 20 years, right?
I mean, I just gave you examples of mega structures. I think the Hoover Dam was a handful of years. So these are, we haven't forgotten to, Eli Dorado, our friend and chief economist at Abundance Institute, likes to point out, did we forget how to do these things? No, we didn't forget. It's just that government red tape has got in the way, and it's become illegal to build stuff in many cases. So need to get back to building. It's incredibly important to build stuff in the physical world, as we know. And let's do it. And let's be part of that movement.
Viewers, you can boost our optimism by hitting the subscribe button, ringing that bell, and leaving us a comment. This greatly helps our channel grow. We appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you next week.